What do you say to people who would say that you're just being naive?
You don't have to be Mother Teresa. You don't have to be Gandhi. You don't have to be solving all of the world's problems and also curing cancer. Like, you can just notice that your neighbors need their lawn mowed. Less than a third of people say, yeah, other people can be trusted.
Wow.
The algorithm's reward. Oh my God, I'm afraid. Oh my God, you suck.
Could this be the catalyst that inspires an actual spiritual revolution? Hey there, it's me, Rainn Wilson, and I want to dig into the human experience. I want to have conversations about a spiritual revolution. Let's get deep with our favorite thinkers, friends, and entertainers about life, meaning, and idiocy. Welcome to the Soul Boom Podcast. Shabnam, welcome to Soul Boom.
Hi, Rainn.
It's so great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
This is crazy. How did you get booked on this show?
I don't know. Some weird guy with a weird name asked me to do it.
That would be me. And the reason, ladies and gentlemen, is because Shabnam and I, over the last year, have worked very hard on the Soul Boom Workbook. And what an incredible process it was. This is a creative journal. It's interactive. It's filled with prompts, writing exercises, doodles, quotes, inspiring quotes, mini essays, all about the life of the soul. We talk about God and the Notorious G.O.D. We talk about beauty, nature, and art, meditation, sacred spaces, finding faith, death and dying, tests and difficulties, all of the big metaphysical, spiritual questions we tackle with a lot of like beautiful
activities and writing and all sorts of razzle dazzle.
We were really inspired by the Artist's Way book. We're both a fan of, and wanted to bring something like that to spirituality. Yeah. And in some ways, it reminds me a little bit of the other book that we did.
We've done two together now.
Which is what?
The SoulPancake book, SoulPancake Chew on Life's Big Questions.
And that was a while ago. It was like 15 years ago?
Yeah, that was 15 years ago. It's a long time ago.
So in some ways, this book is similar. This is like a cousin to the SoulPancake book. What was
SoulPancake 2.0.
What was exactly? Yeah. What was the SoulPancake book about, first of all?
I mean, SoulPancake Chew on Life's Big Questions was just about that. It was, how do we take all of the big questions that we as human beings grapple with and break it down for young people to dig into through thinking about the questions, through art activities, through essays, through quotes, and just get them to open their minds to deeper thought and thinking and all the things that connect us as human beings.
And it was a New York Times bestseller.
It was a New York Times bestseller.
It definitely dealt with spirituality, but it wasn't all about spirituality.
No, we only had like one section that was really about kind of spirituality in that book. There was more about like, art and, relationships and introspection. And it was more about kind of the art of being human.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, SoulPancake was a digital media company. At first, it was a website. That's how Shabnam and I started working together. And we had an incredible 10-year, 12-year
we did
run with SoulPancake.
Yeah, it was a good solid decade, a little bit longer.
3,000 pieces of content, over 1 billion video views. We ended up selling the company to Participant Media, working with them on it for a while. And now it is kind of like, it's not shuttered necessarily, but it's a moment in internet history that's been preserved. Yeah. And a lot of people were greatly inspired and influenced by it.
And the videos still get a ton of traction. We still get notes from teachers and students who are like, oh my God, this video changed my life. I mean, to this day, people
Kid
love
President, Have a Little Faith, My Last Days, so many of our kind of viral video hits in the early days of YouTube. Content for a younger generation.
Yeah, content for a younger generation, but to make spiritual, philosophical ideas relevant for younger audiences. And they're, back before the Industrial Revolution, it was philosophers, it was Aristotle, Plato that were the thinkers and shapers of society. And we kind of threw that out and said, okay, now it's, celebrities and Fortune 500 CEOs that shape kind of what is important in the world, and politicians, and not people who think and reflect on what it means to be a human. And so I wrote this whole thesis about how we need to elevate those voices in media and what that might look like, and, put that away. And then in 2008, I was in Washington, D.C. working, and I heard you on a podcast. You did a podcast interview. You were on The Office at the time, and I hadn't watched the show. Sorry. I hadn't watched the show.
You are forgiven.
Don't worry. I've since watched it. But
it's pretty
at
good.
the time, I hadn't watched it. And you just came on this NPR interview, and you were talking about a new, missions company you're about to launch, about spiritual ideas and making them relevant again. And I literally had this visceral driving down Connecticut Boulevard. Oh my God, Rainn Wilson stole my idea. And
of course you went to stole my idea, as opposed to like, oh, wonderful.
Wow,
he's trying to
in
do
the water. And no. I was
stole
like, this actor stole my idea. Had a visceral kind of reaction to it while I'm driving, and then kind of put it as in the back of my head and like didn't even think about it.
And then we met this wonderful little kid president. Can you tell us about that chapter?
Yeah. So we met a lovely little boy named Robbie Novak and his brother-in-law, Brad Montague. And Brad and Robbie were making little videos for their local university in Tennessee. And we just happened to have two people from Tennessee on our staff who saw this video and were like, we love this kid. And we reached out and said, we love your videos. Come make more of them on SoulPancake. And Brad was like, yeah, no, I think I'm done. I just made those little university videos. But because we had our Tennessee guys, they kind of bonded, and they came over, and he was lightning in a bottle. He was pure joy, and just kind of exploded onto the internet with these crazy in your face messages of just dance and it's okay. Human beings are awesome and love. And it was really Brad's message, but it was through this amazing, beautiful little boy who also had a bunch of health challenges. And so it was just a story of resilience.
That's one thing that always got me is that Robbie Novak had the brittle bone disease and had broken 50 or 60 bones over the course of his life. And he was making videos as kid president about joy and finding hope and purpose. And there wasn't really any other little kids who had suffered as much as he had and felt as much pain as he had undergone.
And I think people took that to heart. They were just like, wow, if he can have that much joy despite the suffering, then so should I. And it really struck a chord with people. That was our first viral hit. The pep talk was kind of our first viral hit. And the very first weekend, it got like 30 million views. We woke up to boom, 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 and we were like, oh my God, what's happening? And tons of inbound. I mean, the Today Show, the White House, like so many emails coming in.
He ended up meeting with Obama. He met with Beyonce.
He met Beyonce. He kissed Beyonce. He met President Obama. He interviewed Tom Hanks. I mean, he did all sorts of crazy things. He went to the White House press correspondence dinner. And now he's 22 years old and, living his college life. And it's kind of crazy that was our first kind of viral hit. And then from there we had My Last Days, which was kind of a longer documentary series. We were doing 25-minute videos when no one was doing 25-minute videos
about death
and getting millions of views.
And with an unknown young filmmaker named Justin Baldoni at the time, who
a little more well known now, but
And he that was our second big viral hit. And who would have thought that 25-minute videos about people dying and having inspirational realizations about what it means to be alive and to savor being alive would have had tens of millions of hits. And I'll never forget, and the story I often tell is like, we were trying to sell it as a TV show because it had so many tens of millions of views. And we went into a bunch of places and pitched it. But I remember going into MTV and showing them the sizzle reel for it and some excerpts from it. And the executives like crying and tears coming down their face. They were literally getting Kleenexes like, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. We can't make it as a TV show. How are we going to get advertisers to say, will you put your ads for Pampers or Ford trucks on this show about death? Like we just can't do it. And that showed the limitations of kind of commercialized television, cable at the time, that they couldn't do stuff that was too risky. This kind of bound them in because of the needs of the advertisers. Yeah.
And ordinary people liked the stories and ordinary people were drawn to them. I mean, we had millions of views showing that, but they were kind of in this, the the church and state wall of, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, because what's going to happen if the advertisers don't align with it?
One of the stories that you tell in the Soul Boom Workbook about your time at SoulPancake is about borderline racist young kid and the comments section.
Yeah.
Can you tell that story? You tell it so well. And I think it's really revelatory of a certain time that has kind of led us a little bit to where we are today.
Yeah.
This was about 7 or 8 years ago.
It was 2014.
And what
15.
video was this for? Can you talk us through this?
Sure. It was about 2014, 2015. It was a video as part of a series called How You See Me.
Hey folks, do you ever wake up and look in the mirror and think, when did my warranty expire? Mwah, mwah. I want to live long and not just last long. That's why I am excited about Superpower. They're helping people take control of their health with real data, not guesswork. You can have a licensed professional come to your home or visit a nearby lab for one simple test. Over 100 biomarkers that reveal what's really happening inside your body. And they give you a personalized plan too. Supplements, nutrition, lifestyle changes, even your true biological age that you can track over time. Your blueprint activated with Superpower. Not only did Superpower reduce their price to just $199, but for a limited time, our listeners are getting an additional 20% off with the code TAKE20. Head to superpower.com and use the code TAKE20 at checkout for $20 off your membership. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them, and please make sure to mention this podcast, the Soul Boom Podcast, to support the show. Hey folks, I have learned something after years of therapy. Decades of therapy? Healing isn't about fixing yourself. It's about learning to name your pain, sit with it, and slowly find meaning in it. And turns out that's what true growth really looks like. And that's why I love what Grow Therapy is doing. They make it easier to start or to start again with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the United States. You can search by what matters most to you, insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and book in as little as 2 days. And Grow makes it simple to check your insurance coverage up front so you know what to expect before you begin. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and for some, you pay as little as $0, depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/soulboom today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/soulboom. growtherapy.com/soulboom. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan. Hey folks, you've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, oh yeah, sure, right, like that's gonna work. But Nutrafol isn't like the rest. It's physician formulated, clinically tested, and the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand. My dermatologist actually recommended that I take this very brand, unbeknownst that I was doing an ad for them, and I'm very excited to get going because frankly, I need it. Nutrafol hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF Contents certified, the gold standard in third-party certification for supplements. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code SOULBOOM. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code SOULBOOM. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code SOULBOOM.
So one of the videos was about being Black and how you see me. And all of these individuals in the video talked about what it felt like to be Black in America and how they're seen. And one of the comments, I'm not going to say the real name of the individual, but we called him Brandon in the book. But this individual writes a comment on this video that basically says, I don't understand how I have privilege.
Like white privilege.
I don't understand. I've been called white trash my whole life. I work at the Dairy Queen. My mom has diabetes.
Grew up in a trailer park.
I live in a trailer park. I don't understand how I have privilege. And, we had a policy at SoulPancake where we asked our users to, not hit below the belt, but that we would let them kind of speak their mind, just, keep it nice. And our social media manager's policy was if there was anything cruel or mean that was said, we would delete it. Especially, Kid President videos had a lot of really disparaging comments on them. We would delete those, but we wouldn't get involved in the conversations. We would upvote things we liked, but we didn't really get involved. And that was kind of our policy. Let the community speak. Well, this young boy posted this comment and the community kind of leapt on him. I mean, people were like, this is the problem. You don't even realize how much privilege you have just by the color of your skin.
You're a racist.
Yeah. And at one point he tried to explain himself like, no, but what I'm trying to say, and he tried to explain himself. And the very first comment was racist, right? Like it was crazy how this community kind of leapt on him. And what was wild is, and I still carry so much responsibility for this, but our social media manager came and was like, what do I do with this? And I said, well, delete the comments where people are calling him names. Like that's not okay. But like, we don't get involved in the back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And so she didn't. And what ended up happening is several people posted comments that said, oh, these people don't understand you. Come check out, this link. And they were all kind of alt-white threads and articles and links. And eventually this kid, his comments on SoulPancake became more vitriolic and hateful. And then he just disappeared. He deleted his account and just disappeared from our community. And I definitely feel I think so often, like what happened to Brandon? Like what happened to him? Did we actually radicalize him by not inviting him into a more honest conversation and letting people grab him and pull him into extremes by not stopping the calling out, canceling, whatever was happening in the comments?
Yeah.
And this was before canceling was a thing.
Perfect example of like pre-cancel culture.
It was pre-cancel.
Where someone was like shamed and blamed for asking a perfectly innocent question for a 20-year-old from Kentucky or whatever. And instead of being called in, he was called out. Instead of being like, and maybe that's too much to expect from the internet.
Sure.
Hello.
Yeah.
And he was called in by some people. He was called in
to an extreme,
to alt-right kind of like you. And I remember some of those comments were like, you see what we're talking about? These people, they just want to make you the villain. Like you're the bad guy. You're inherently racist. Come over here.
No one's listening to you. We'll listen to you. Yeah.
And it's taking that red pill.
Yeah.
And we saw it happen in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
It was really scary.
Yeah.
And now we've seen the extremes of the right and extremes of the left going on.
Yeah. It was scary. And it also was humbling. It was super humbling because I think we had more, I think we kind of shirked responsibility for that. And I think sometimes maybe we should have taken more responsibility for being the place that called everyone in and said, hey, not okay. Like all voices are welcome here. All questions are here. He asked with a spirit of curiosity and we should honor that. And
it was the early days of social media, and perhaps we could have used social media more effectively to kind of like have us talk about what was going on online here and about his question, or bring him on to an Instagram live or, like, let's talk about this more. Let's dig into this. Like, is he a racist because he says, I don't understand how I'm privileged? That's not exactly what white privilege means. It's not about like, doesn't mean you don't have struggles and haven't suffered.
Yeah.
But it was. And what other lessons would you say you learned from that time at SoulPancake? We got to do so much stuff around positive psychology.
Yeah.
You actually got a degree in positive psychology.
I got a certification in positive psychology. So one of our
Can
other
you talk
shows,
about the
one of our other shows that was kind of a big hit was called The Science of Happiness. Lots of viral videos out of the science of happiness, the science of empathy, the science of love. There were all these kind of gratitude. So we explored all these different spaces, and it was very much so rooted in positive psychology. And as we'd get these research documents and things like that. And when I was reading them, I was like, oh my God, this is actually all the stuff I really believe. And I got really fascinated by it. And so I ended up actually doing a Coursera course and got a certification in positive psychology. I did like the PERMA training that the University of Pennsylvania has with Martin Seligman. So I really kind of went deep into it because I found it really fascinating. And it has so much overlap with spiritual lessons. Like there's so much of positive psychology that is actually ancient spiritual wisdom, but brought to you in the form of science.
And we get to that in the Soul Boom Workbook. But can you tell us a little bit more about the science of what you learned there and this intersection between positive psychology and spirituality?
Yeah. So what's interesting about positive psychology is that, it's the counter to what we all think of as psychology, right? When we think of psychology, it's about what's wrong with us, right? Like, why is my relationship not working? And what are these deep, dark thoughts I have, right? But Martin Seligman
addiction,
and the other
neuroses.
neuroses, relationship problems, trauma, et cetera. But Martin Seligman and others, kind of his peers, basically came around in the 90s and were like, actually, there's a lot of people who have a lot going right in their brains. And when they have challenges in life, when they have suffering, they have real pain, but the way they respond to it and the way they manage through it and emotionally regulate through it is very different from others. And so the field started just as studying these people and how they respond differently to different stimuli.
Yeah,
and
there's a famous quote from Leo Tolstoy that is like, every unhappy family is different, but every happy family is the same. And it's interesting because it's true.
It is.
Like there are some universals in happy families about how they communicate, how they love, how they connect, that create a kind of a universal cohesiveness, in a functioning family unit. And you can study these tent poles of gratitude, of connection,
community, service. Like there's so many like common themes in the happiest people. They spend a lot of time in nature. They have sources of beauty in their life. Like there's such common themes in the people that naturally have a positive response or can manage difficult situations in a very different way. They don't get kind of mired in the suffering. They actually find meaning in it. Anyway, so this field, what it does is it kind of looks at all the qualities that inform that, this matrix of qualities that can bring more positive psychology and positive response into your life and almost rewire the synapses in our brain. I was actually listening on my very long drive here to part of Arthur Book's most recent podcast where he talks about common knowledge. There's the common knowledge of the physical, right? Which is exercise, eat well, sleep enough hours at night. Like these are so critical to our well-being. And it is common knowledge that is critical to our happiness and our well-being.
Doesn't mean that America is doing it.
Doesn't mean that we're all doing it, but we all know that if we do those things, it's good for us. And so positive psychology and common knowledge, this intersection is that, things like having an attitude of gratitude really is important, right? Finding the things to be grateful for, even when things are challenging. Being present is really important, especially with people that our most singular source of happiness and health over our lives is the relationships we have with other people. And so investing in quality relationships and owning your part in those relationships, having an air of forgiveness with the relationships in your life, that these things are all really critically important to our well-being. So there's a lot of little nuances like building resilience and a growth mindset and other things that the psychologists discover. But like at a core level, it's investing in our physical well-being, it's relationships, it's gratitude and presence, right? There's some very core common things that all happy people, generally happy people, have in common. And it was really fascinating because we saw it happen with videos at SoulPancake where we would test these things on real people, and over again, their happiness levels would go up doing these little experiments.
Expressing gratitude.
Yeah. Just literally writing a letter to someone and reading it out loud. And suddenly they were like so low on the happiness score, and it would like shoot up just by saying, hey, I'm grateful for the influence you had in your life. Because just saying that out loud sparked something in their brain.
And what about the intersection between spirituality and positive psychology? You talked about the common knowledge comes from these ancient faith traditions, ancient wisdom traditions. About, connection to nature is a big one as well. That's both physical and psychological.
If you look in the Eastern traditions, right, there's a lot about presence, about communing with nature, about gratitude. There's a lot in the Eastern traditions about that. And then in the Western traditions, there's a lot around love and compassion and community. Love thy neighbor as you would yourself. These are core principles that humanity, like from the dawn of human beings, has been ingrained in our collective education. And so psychologists came around and said, we're going to prove it through science. We're going to show how brain synapses rewire and how different parts of our brain light up when we invest in those qualities. But those qualities are ancient. They've been around since millennia. So it's really fascinating to see that the faith idea, the ideas of faith around gratitude and presence, communing with nature, stillness and meditation, feeling small in the scale of the universe, love, compassion, gratitude, building community. These are all core principles of so many
We were
faiths.
talking earlier about wonder and awe.
Wonder and awe.
At either or both the natural world and the spiritual world, at the enormity of the creator and the enormity of the night sky.
And finding beauty in day-to-day life, right? Like even, the people who look at an outlet and see a face, right? Like there's just little moments of beauty that
I posted
are
a face
everywhere.
that was a urinal. I saw a face in a urinal.
That's beauty in the urinal.
It had two little urinal cakes and then the thing, and it just was like, oh, that's like a little face. And before I peed, I documented it and posted it online for millions of people to see this beautiful little urinal face.
Yeah.
So that's how I roll.
That's how you roll, because you find the beauty in the urinals, right? And so I think that's a skill you can actually develop. And science tells us that's a skill you can develop, but then ancient wisdom tells us, look to the sky, look to God, see the beauty of creation, right? And that's very, very spiritual as well. So I think it's really fascinating how all
and
these
it's
things.
in The Office too. Pam says in the final episode, it's about beauty in the ordinary things. Isn't that what it's all about? Finding the beauty in the ordinary things. And I think that's one of the reasons that The Office has resonated so much, is that there's so many just lovely human little moments here and there woven throughout the episodes that, yes, there's a lot of hilarity and absurdity, but there's also these just lovely, touching little human moments that anchor it.
Yeah, the beautiness of being alive.
Well, I just love this intersection of your story as a Baha'i, as an immigrant eldest daughter going to journalism school, SoulPancake, Joy Brigade, now Soul Boom. A lot of souls in the title.
A lot of soul.
Yeah. And what an honor to get to work on this book with you again. And
we did it.
We did it.
We did
Just
it.
hot off the presses. Look at this. First ever 2 books. The Soul Boom Workbook. Tell our listeners and viewers about the Soul Boom Workbook. What did we write and why did we write it?
Yes. Well, you wrote the first book, Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution, a couple years ago.
You helped me edit.
I did help you with it. And which was all about kind of why we need spiritual ideas in today's life. And the next natural question is, but how? How do we actually implement spiritual principles in our life and explore those ideas? And this is the answer. So basically the book is a journal that takes you through the personal, right? Like what is our personal relationship with God and faith and prayer and meditation, and what is sacred, and how do we find beauty and art in our own lives? And then towards the end, we kind of take it out into the world. How do you actually use spiritual ideas and principles to effectively engage with your community and create change in the world? And so it's really kind of a guidebook to our modern lives through a spiritual lens.
One thing that I hoped that we could do with the Soul Boom Workbook was make a workbook for people who had never really thought about spirituality before. Make a workbook for active spiritual seekers. A workbook for people that are spiritual but not religious. Although we do have sections on faith, finding faith, and the positive aspects of religions. We all know the negative aspects. And we were also hoping that this could be a book that would be used by evangelicals or youth ministers to allow the young, churchgoers and believers or people going to mosque or synagogue to kind of dive deeper on these spiritual ideas. Do you think that we've succeeded in doing that?
I mean, I guess people will tell us once they get the book if we've succeeded in doing that. But I think we have a really good balance. I think there's religious ideas in it, but it's not about religion. It is very much so about kind of how do you nurture your own soul and spiritual longing. And I think that is a deeply human need and a deeply human desire to connect to something bigger. And so I think we're trying to give people the tools for that. It's really funny that you say the audience, because the Fetzer Institute, which has been really supportive of Soul Boom and is really supportive of this workbook.
Thank you, Fetzer. We love you. Yeah.
Really supportive. The head of the organization there was asking me kind of, who do you think this book is for? And I was like, well, it's for the nuns, the, spiritual, not religious, right? The people who have none of the above on the religion list, right? Yeah. It's like none of the above. So they're the people who are like, I believe in spirituality. I like crystals. I sometimes pray, right? And yet I don't want the religion. But it's also for, evangelical Christians and progressive Christians, people who are, I believe in Christ. I believe in the church, but the church of today doesn't look like the church I grew up with. And I'm not sure where I belong. And so there's kind of multiple groups, I think, that could really find, something in this book for themselves. I hope. We hope.
A lot of the ideas from the Soul Boom book, like I had a chapter called The Notorious G.O.D. Mm-hmm. There's a chapter in here called The Notorious G.O.D. Mm-hmm. Instead of reading about various ideas of God, you get to kind of soul search and fact find and use your right brain and draw and sketch and doodle and read inspiring quotes about the journey towards finding something like God, the creator, the divine essence, the source.
And we very, very clearly say like, oh, the Michelangelo bearded white, like, no,
let's a
throw
patriarchal man on a cloud with superpowers.
Let's think about other ideas.
Yeah, let's completely throw that template out. And hopefully you and I will be making our documentary, The Notorious G.O.D.
Yes, we have developed a little film that we want to make.
In 2026, hopefully funding will come together for that. That will be an exciting announcement to take that journey, searching for the divine in the modern world. What does God look like in the age of AI?
And God is everywhere. If we think about it, God is on our money. It's in our classrooms, our Pledge of Allegiance. It's influencing our governments and our schools. And yet nobody talks about like, what exactly is this God that seems to be everywhere in our lives? And so it's really just a film following you as you try to dig into that.
Yeah. Cold mornings, holiday plans, that's when I start craving simplicity. Clothes that look sharp, feel good, and don't make me wonder what I was thinking at the store last spring. That is Quince. They've got the kind of staples that make winter dressing easy. $50 Mongolian cashmere sweaters that feel like an everyday luxury. They've got wool coats that are equal parts stylish and durable. Their denim nails the fit. So I've been wearing their Australian merino wool crew neck sweater. Check it out. It's warm, it's soft, it's holding up beautifully. And the best part, Quince partners directly with ethical factories and artisans, cutting out the middleman so you get premium quality at about half the price of other luxury brands. Give and get timeless holiday staples that last this season with Quince. Go to quince.com/soulboom for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/soulboom. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/soulboom. Hey, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our spiritual partners at the Fetzer Institute. They have just launched a brand new shiny website over at fetzer.org. That's FETZER.org. And it's full of spiritual tools for modern struggles, which is exactly what we're trying to cultivate here at Soul Boom. Fetzer believes that most of humanity's problems are spiritual at the root, and they're helping people plant some deeply soulful solutions. So I urge you to go poke around their new website, check out Fetzer.org. Thank you, Fetzer Institute, for helping sponsor the show and all of the truly amazing work that you do over there. Fetzer.org, that's FETZER.org. You have a really personal and scary story about your first engagement.
Yes.
And hitting an emotional low point. And how do you use that story? Can you tell us that story? And how do you use that story to kind of highlight, I think that was tests and difficulties, right?
Yeah, it's why do we have suffering?
Why is there
Yeah.
suffering in the world? But
Yeah.
do you want to share that story with us and then how that dovetails into a spirituality workbook?
Yeah, sure. I was in a relationship with an older gentleman, and it was not you could call it toxic. It was not a healthy relationship. And at the time we got engaged, and I went on a work trip and ended up losing the engagement ring. And, for I think a normal couple, losing an engagement ring would be kind of a funny story, or, oh crap, now we got to cut down the budget of the wedding or something like that. And instead it was kind of a bad situation for us, and there was yelling, and it was just not healthy. It kind of felt like a sign. I spent the next 2 days of this work trip it's a sign, you aren't meant to be with this person. You need to call off this engagement.
Maybe the Notorious G.O.D.
The Notorious G.O.D. was sending
took
me
your
some
engagement ring, threw it down the toilet.
Yeah, exactly. Because I crawled on conference room floors. I dug through trash cans. I was terrified that I had lost this ring. And I just took it as a sign that this is not healthy. This is not okay. And so anyways, ended up calling off the engagement, which was really, really hard. Lost money. Like it was just a bad situation. And then, this individual followed me to the East Coast trying to kind of tell me we shouldn't be breaking up. And it felt kind of scary. And what's funny is afterwards was when I actually grappled with my own faith probably the most was, why did God put this person in my path? And what am I supposed to learn from this?
Yeah.
Like, why was this okay? Why did I need to do this? Which
is a great spiritual question for the Soul Boom Workbook.
It is like, why did this happen? And what is this supposed to mean?
Elizabeth Gilbert in her latest book talks about life as being Earth School and this idea that, we're put through these spiritual tests and hurdles and have to jump through fire and crawl over broken glass sometimes to learn a specific lesson. Sometimes we get it over and over and over again.
It's true.
But asking that question is one of those great spiritual conundrums. Like, why am I being tested like this? What is going on? What am I supposed to get out of it? But keep going.
Yeah, no, and it is true. You're kind of like, especially, again, oldest daughter of immigrants, I was like, I've always done everything right. I've always followed the rules. I've always been like the good kid. And like this, like, why is this happening to me? Why did this person get put in my path? And why am I in so much pain? Right. And so it really was like a crisis of faith. Like I just didn't understand what God was trying to teach me. And it was funny because that was actually 2008, which was right before. Then I go to Haifa and I hear you on the radio and all of this is happening. And I do think that SoulPancake kind of became a healing balm in a lot of ways because it forced me to think about what could this have taught me, and was I meant to go through this? It forced you to work
15-hour days.
It forced me to work 15-hour days to process the pain and like to fill, the sadness with something that brought me joy. And that was important. Like finding that distraction in a way was really important to get me out of the depths of, sadness and grief I was in at the time. So I say in the book that ultimately, I think the mess does matter. The mess does matter. And I think it taught me to listen to my intuition. I knew from the beginning this person wasn't right and I wasn't listening to my gut. And I do think that I wasn't listening to my intuition, and it really taught me like my inner voice matters. I should listen to my gut. My intuition tells me things that affirmations, like when you're on the right path, affirmations do happen, like doors do open, things are easier when you're on the path that God has meant for you. And that has happened to me multiple times in my life. I spent a little while looking for a big executive role and doing a bunch of interviews and becoming a finalist and not getting the job multiple times. And eventually I had to say, okay, rejection is God's protection. Like it shouldn't be this challenging to do this. Like, what is this trying to tell me? What is this challenge telling me? And I had to learn that lesson the hard way through a lot of heartbreak, but
a lot of rejection
and a lot of hurt and pain. And then you kind of go, oh, actually the mess does matter. And you are meant to learn something. It's telling you something. And we should all be better at listening to what the suffering is trying to tell us.
And isn't that one of the great spiritual lessons of, wow, I suffered so much. I went through hell. That was the lowest I've ever been in my life. And I look back on it and I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lesson that young people need to learn about resilience today, is that suffering, purifies the gold in the fire.
It does.
And oftentimes, not all the time, but most of the time, you look back. Even Arthur Brooks was talking about people who get cancer. Sometimes people who get cancer, it's the thing they're the most grateful for in their life. We don't really hear about this. Yeah. The thing that might kill them and might still kill them, reframed being alive, being a human being, and living one day at a time in gratitude in a way that not being sick could never have done. So,
I mean, an entire unit of this book is about the anxiety, mental health, suffering, tests and difficulties, death and dying, cancer. Like, we talk about that significantly because I do think it's
but
one
it's
of
fun,
the, but it's also
funny.
fun. There's also fun stuff and there's also jokes.
Tell me about some of the sections that you resonated with the most that we
well, some of my favorite sections, we have an entire section on beauty, nature, and art. It's one of my favorite sections of the book. And it's a lot about kind of finding beauty around us. There's an activity in here that our mutual friend and SoulPancake co-founder Golri's Lucina does with her kids, which is beauty emergencies, just stopping and finding beauty emergencies. And I do this with my kids where we'll be walking or in the car. And now my son will be like, oh my God, Mom, beauty emergency. Half the time it's a fire truck, but it's still like, Mom, beauty emergency.
A rainbow or a beautiful tree or
a crack in the sidewalk. Just anything that makes you stop and go, oh, that's beautiful.
And then we have an exercise to capture the beauty emergency on your phone and share it with a text chain.
Yeah, create a text chain. You and I need to start a beauty emergency group where we can just message each other these pictures. But it also explores, connecting with nature and art and music and dancing. And I think so much of the joy of life comes from that playfulness. And beauty helps you access playfulness. So I really love that chapter. There's a whole section about forgiveness. We don't talk enough about forgiveness and how important that is. But there's a whole section about forgiveness that I love. And then one of my other favorite activities is called the Ofrenda of Influence. So I love this activity. So
hold it up a little bit better for the camera here. If we can,
the Ofrenda.
We can push in there and capture that.
Of influence. This one's one of my favorites. So it's,
what is an ofrenda?
So an ofrenda is, in the Hispanic tradition, Dia de los Muertos is the Day of the Dead. It's where you celebrate the memory of your ancestors. And an ofrenda is created where you create kind of an altar and to honor all of your ancestors. So all the people who came before you. It's a way to remember all of the individuals who form kind of your family tree, your lineage, your ancestry. So what we did in the book is, I think it's such a beautiful tradition and such a beautiful ceremony that they do, and the altar that they make, remembering these ancestors. I think in the Hispanic tradition and in the Mexican tradition specifically, they say you die 3 deaths, right? They die one death when you physically die, when your heart stops beating. The second death is when you're buried and you're put in the ground and returned to the earth. And then the third death is when the last person who knew you says your name. That's kind of the third death that you die. Yeah. And the ofrenda is a way to still remember and honor those people, still have their names and their memories alive. So I think it's such a beautiful tradition. But what we did in the book is we created an ofrenda of influence. And what we said is, no human is an island, right? To quote whatever movie that's from, but no human being is an island. And so we all are influenced by people, right? We've got the people who guided us as children, the people who influenced us as adults, the people who set the bar for us, right? Like
mentors,
our mentors, right? Like, who are all the people who create that altar of influence in our lives, and really digging into that. And I think it's such a beautiful reminder. I think it's kind of a backwards way of practicing gratitude, right? Like, remind ourselves in our brain, like, all the people who contributed to us and care about us and believed in us and shaped us, right? And I love the idea of taking this cultural tradition and
creating a shrine,
creating almost like a shrine, an altar
how
to
we got here today,
how I got here.
But I love this soundtrack of my life. Writing about the songs that influenced you from childhood, from your first party, your first kiss, your first dance, then adulting, songs associated with your love and family, songs that define who you are. And then we have a dance break. Then there's Be a Fashioner.
What's yours? What's the song that made you feel seen as a teen?
When I first got into kind of punk and new wave in like 82, 83, everything kind of changed. And there were a bunch of songs in there. I remember the Police singing like So Lonely off of like Zenyatta Mondada. Like, I thought it was just brilliant. But Lost in the Supermarket by The Clash off London Calling was that was like, I heard that song, I'm all lost in the supermarket. And I was like 16. I was like, that's
you see me.
This is who I am. This is like the tone, the style, the humor, the rebelliousness, and London Calling is, I believe, the greatest rock album ever made. And that kind of defined my young adulthood.
All right.
Yeah.
The Clash.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the challenges with Soul Boom from the very beginning is that people really respond to meditation and finding peace and serenity, reducing anxiety, connecting with nature, harnessing love. But folks in contemporary American culture don't really see spiritual ideas and tools that can be transformative to their communities and to the world at large. This maybe is a Baha'i thing, so it's a kind of a newer concept, but how can you harness ancient spiritual truths for societal change? Not just making your life more peaceful and more serene and less anxious, right? That's important. You can do meditation class, you go to yoga class, you do prayer, meditation, use apps and whatnot. But
dance and sing and
But how do we harness spiritual tools and ideas to build and create community, to build bonds of unity, to bring people together, and to ultimately, through a ripple effect, try and make the world a better place? And we tackle that in part 4 of the Soul Boom Workbook, Soul Boom in Society, Creating Community, a Service Mindset, and How to Change the World.
Yeah.
Are there sections in there in the workbook that resonate with you around this?
Yeah, that was a really hard section to write because you're right. Like our modern lives are not exactly set up to take spiritual ideas and implement them in our community work and government and civic environments, right? It's just not set up that way. So how coming up with even how to frame that section was really challenging. One of my favorite things in that section though is, well, there's 2, but one is to recognize what role you play. And the second is to notice what's needed. Like there's one really great, we have kind of this activity around recognizing the type of role you play, right? We have everything from the leader to the connector to the artist, right? Like know your skills, like
the bridge builder.
Yeah, the bridge builder. Like what are you good at? Like, what are the skills that you bring that even if no one asked you to do it, you would be doing those things, right? Like I will always end up being the organizer and planner because I'm just really good at organizing and planning things. And so I know that I'll get things done. So I could be the doer, even if, no one asked me to do it, I would get stuff done. But knowing that about yourself, it makes it easier sometimes to raise your hand in spaces and say, oh, I want to be part of this community. And actually, this is the thing I can do. I'll do it whether you ask me to or not, but this is the thing I can help with. And I think that's important to recognize, like, what's the skill you bring?
Because some people feel like, if I'm not Mother Teresa, I can't make the world a better place.
Or if I don't have infinite hours of time, or if I'm not really good at organizing things, or I'm not a good public speaker, like I can't do those things.
Right.
But every community needs different types of people and different roles. And so it's really important to know, like, where can I step in and help? And what's the lane that I fill that contributes to the greater good? And then the second thing that we talk about that I think is really important, and I actually have learned it more as a mom than anything else, is the importance of noticing. So, you can tell a kid 50 times, like, pick up your shoes and put him away, or, oh, I see that someone's crying, right? Like, oh, you hurt someone on the playground, like, go say sorry. But in parenting, they tell you actually the bigger skill you need to teach your kids is how to notice, right? Like, oh, I noticed that someone's sad. What can I do about that? Or I noticed that the plates are on the table. What could I do about that? Right? Like just noticing the needs that are around you.
I would say, if I may, my wife and I always talk about, like, hey, read the room. Like, I love this idea of read the room because in a way, it's like that. It's like, read the room means like an interpersonal level. Like if someone is sharing and then you pick up your phone and look at it, like Like read the room. That was not
That wasn't the moment to do that.
That was the most conscious, sensitive choice. And read the room means you live in Dubuque, Iowa, and you're reading the room of Dubuque, Iowa. Like, how are we disconnected? Where could we use help? How could this community obtain greater healing? What are the populations that are most at risk, at need? What about nature? What about the parks? What about common spaces?
Or even simple things like I'm driving down my street and I notice that one particular house is overrun with weeds. Is that an elderly neighbor that might need help mowing their lawn, right? Or
is it a psycho killer?
Or is it a psycho?
And I need to do a podcast
But see, we don't trust anyone.
Oh.
See, you're assuming it's a psycho killer because we don't trust anyone.
Guilty.
I know. So it's like little things like that, like you get on the bus and you're like, okay, who's riding this bus? Who could use help carrying their groceries off of it, right? Like it's those kinds of things, like the little things that if you just pay attention and start with the noticing. It's important for kids and it's important for us as adults when we're trying to figure out like, oh my God, everything's overwhelming and the world's burning. What can I even do? Just literally look around and see what you notice. And I think that's a really powerful exercise in here that we sometimes forget. Like you don't have to be Mother Teresa. You don't have to be Gandhi. You don't have to be solving all of the world's problems and also curing cancer. Like you can just notice that your neighbors need their lawn mowed.
And here's a wonderful activity, tools for turbulent times. Mm-hmm. Tools for turbulent times. Like everyone says this, like the world is so chaotic, it's overwhelming. There's climate change and political division and political violence. How can I harness spiritual tools to help me navigate this increasingly kind of chaotic world? Gratitude practice, conscious breathing, do an act of kindness.
We literally map out like, okay, you're feeling like this, do this. You're feeling like this, do that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's important too, because spirituality can help us with that. And I know this feels very kumbaya, but like we really did try to make it practical. Like we really did try to say like, some of these things might feel silly. Some of these things might feel deep. Some of these things might feel, too simple. But I think we were trying to make it practical, I hope. I mean, you tell us, get a copy and tell us what you think.
Okay, that's too hard sell.
Too hard sell. Got it. Too hard sell. But I also think that is an important part of it is the other thing that I think is important to talk about is that we wanted this book to be something people do with other people. I think there's a lot of beauty in hearing like what that song was that defined your childhood, or even talking about like, what are the things you notice in your neighborhood? I just think doing this book with other people could be also really powerful.
And what do you hope that this book achieves?
Honestly, I think my biggest hope is that there's, 200 book clubs across the country of people digging into spiritual ideas for their lives and not about any specific religion or dogma or, moral certitude, but more about just how can I take some of this ancient wisdom and make my life and my family's life and my community's life stronger and deeper and better connected. We desperately need that. We're isolated and alone and feel so much doom and hopelessness. Like if this can get small groups of people across the country connecting with each other and feeling a little more hopeful.
Besides someone doing it on their own and feeling kind of more connected to their spiritual journey, let's say, getting hope. You're hoping the book also builds community itself.
Yeah, because that's the solution. I mean, every study on earth, every scientist, every human being, and I think in all of our hearts, we know at the end of the day, the thing that will make us happiest and healthiest is other people and having good relationships with other people. And if this can be a tool to start building those kinds of deep relationships, then check plus A plus gold star to us.
Could this be the catalyst that inspires an actual spiritual revolution?
Touche, maybe.
Shabnam, what a pleasure having you on Soul Boom. It's been so long. You're one of my dearest friends. I'm so grateful for you and
as are you, Rainn.
Incredible work you did on SoulPancake and on Soul Boom. Before we go, one thing we ask every guest is, how do you define the word soul?
I think the soul is the spark of the divine, the spark of the universe in each and every one of us that transcends space and time.
There you have it. Shabnam Mogharabi. That name's a mouthful.
Yes, it is. Rainn with 2 N's.
What an honor to have worked on this book with you, and onwards to our next project together.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
All right. It's finally here, folks. The Soul Boom Workbook, Spiritual Tools for Modern Living. It's out now. This is the interactive spiritual journal your soul didn't know it needed, and now it can't live without. Listen, the world out there can suck sometimes. Fact. This is our spiritual revolution for changing the world with hope. In this, we get to explore beauty, love, God, grief, and the sacred power of potlucks. So pick up a copy of the workbook today. And bonus, invite some of your weirdest, deepest, kindest friends to get spiritually curious with you in a Soul Boom book club. I promise you, this isn't self-help, this is soul help. Order the Soul Boom Workbook today. Click the link below to buy.